So I wanted to get on here to talk about recoding your identity. I'm someone that grew up extremely pessimistic. I always thought, what was me? Why is this always happening? I couldn't get out of my own way for a long time. And recoding your identity is one of my pillars in the boss method. And it really is related to a mindset. It's just mindset shift. And I really didn't learn how to do that, at least change my mindset until I was older. It was actually my first big boy job out of school, is what I call it. First sales job, phone sales. As you can imagine, it's a very, very, very tough job. Um, and the way I learned this mindset stuff was through a great manager of mine. His name was Tony. He's awesome, man. But he was such a positive guy, but he also struggled with anger and other things that he also was pessimistic as well growing up. But he was one of the best sales managers I've ever had, one of the best sales guys I've ever known, super, super positive. But the one thing he taught me, he was like, man, you can control what you can control, and that's it. And he's like, you can control how you feel about things. And so, as frustrated as I would get at some of these jobs, I mean, not jobs, I should say calls, because I'm really hard on myself. I always wanted to be I want to be successful. I work really hard. I want to get that sale. He had always would just be like, dude, man, I know that was a tough call. Like, you sounded really good. You just didn't get that one. And I would get really hard on myself, and be like, man, like, why isn't this working? But like you said, you can only control what you can control, right? I control my tonality. I control what I said on the phone. I tweak the script a little bit. So, but this goes to show you that, like, if you're just thinking, like, if you have a negative mindset, especially in something like sales, right? It's a tough job. It almost snowballs, right? You don't, you're not as positive. And then as it snowballs, it's like every call gets worse, right? You sound worse on the phone. You have less patience to deal with people. And me, I have a rough voice, so I already have a tough time on the phone trying to sell. My voice is just, it's distinct, it's harsh. I'm from Chicago. Um, so the angrier I got, the worse I sounded on the phone, and the worse I did on the phone, the more angry I got because I couldn't sell goofy, right? But that job taught me so much because I realized that if I could just alter my feelings into how can I learn from this, and how can I get better from this, like the obstacle, how can I turn the objections into something I can learn from, the more positive I became about situations. So I started using that in my life, right? I've had a lot of crazy shit happening to me, especially the last 2 years. When it comes to like lessons and mindset, right? I had a lot of stuff happening to me in Denver. I mean, it was like nonstop. I got into a couple car. I had a car accident. I lost my jobs a couple times, and I was always pushed through. But I always figured, I was like, man, like, even though life is going really bad, like, I can make the best of it and just try to keep pushing on. And that's what I did in Denver, right? Because I was going through so much, losing jobs, car accidents, motorcycle stolen, breakup. Um, I stopped with the negative mindset, right? It just I knew if I was negative, I'd probably stop going to the gym. I'd probably, I mean, I can't even lie, self sabotage a little bit. I was drinking a little bit extra and that sort of thing. But my mindset was never just like, woe is me. I knew eventually things would get better. And I'm really just hopping on this video here because I really need you guys to understand that when you are going onto this journey for fat loss or whatever it may be, whatever the case may be. You need to recode your identity. You need to change your mindset because the more positive you can be about things, the better it'll be for you and the better you will be able to handle situations no matter what comes your way. And that's what it should be all about. Um, and without that, without my old manager Tony helping me out here, with with mindset, I don't think I'd be in the spot I am. I wouldn't have learned as many lessons as I have. I wouldn't be as optimistic now. I'm a better person for it. Um, so really, when you're struggling and you're trying to do something big, stay positive, have a different mindset, and you need to recode your identity. You need to become what you want to become. Even if you're not there yet, manifest it. Think of it in your brain because you will get there eventually. Thanks for tuning in.